going for ages because me, Polly and Colin come around I mean, and when it's nice in the summer, obviously we sat outside, but you can always go inside. Who's the lane 76?
Marty.
Who do you think it is? I don't know. I would have thought it said Martin Lane.
Can everybody hear now? So first of all, thank you for coming and welcome to Plaque Park and this special celebration.
Can't hear you.
More volume. Is that better? Is that better? Yeah. I won't sing. Thank you for coming along to Plaque Park and this special commemoration, commemoration of the Manchester Corinthians. The Corinthians were established in 1949 by Percy Ashley, and they played on the pitch right over there initially, and Percy's house was on Fog Lane, just over there, and this site was very much the heart of the club for well over 20 years. This is where basically it all happened. This is where women's football, at a time when women were told you're not supposed to play football, this is where it happened. And from here, the women were able to go off and play in tournaments in Germany, Madeira, Portugal, South America, Venezuela, all over the world basically, Africa, representing Manchester, Plaque Park, women and football. So it really is significant that we're here today. Now, I could go on for hours, as most of you probably know, so I won't do, but what I would like to do now is, first of all, introduce you Alice Moody, who is the chair of the Friends of Plaque Park, just to say a few words about the group and about the appeal. Alison? Alice?
Wow, thanks Gary. It is absolutely amazing to see so many people here today. For those of you who don't know, the Friends group we're a group of volunteers from the local community who work to improve our park for the local community. When Gary and the Corinthians came to us about a year and a half ago now and asked if we would support a blue plaque and some information about the Corinthians in our cafe, well of course we would. But in addition to that, it quickly became very apparent that the knowledge of the Corinthians had been lost at a local level. So people from our community and around our park have no idea of the amazing history that these ladies created from our park. So in addition to the blue plaque, we worked hard to fundraise, wanting to make sure that their story is never lost again. And we were, well, with a lot of hard work from our volunteers and a lot of generous contributions, we were able to fund the two amazing murals that many of you will have seen as you've walked in today, showing the two sides of this amazing team. So playing internationally in front of tens of thousands of people, that's the side facing us. And then on the other side, the reality of training in Plaque Park, which is, it's muddy, it's Manchester, and after a session you may well be washing down in the duck ponds. So, we've also created the display board that you've seen out there. We're hoping that the story of the Corinthians goes on to inspire future generations of female football players and in fact anyone who needs to achieve something and is working in a system that isn't entirely supportive. It has given the Friends great pleasure to bring the Corinthians and their story back home to Plaque Park.
Let's bring up Terry Davis, who's a former England international player who has come to say a few words, and I think some of the women actually did play against Kerry right at the start of her career. So if Kerry can come forward, and whilst Kerry's coming forward, I just want to say there's people here today who've travelled from Canada and all over Britain, There's people who represent the start of a club towards the end of a club. Dorothy, just sat here, played in the very first season. So can you just give Dorothy a round of applause, please? And now, Terry, if I can hand over to you to say a few words. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. You might need to be close.
Thank you very much, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here today at Plaque, the home of former Manchester Corinthians. Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. We are here today to unveil the Blue Heritage Plaque in the honour of the trailblazing players, coaches, and all staff connected to the Corinthians. They all blazed the trail for the women's football at a time when women's football was pushed in the shadows, and at one time women's football was actually banned. The Corinthians travelled the world raising money for charity and promoting women's football. And then when they became a founding member of the Women's Football Association, an organisation that the Corinthians played a huge role in lifting the ban on women's football. The growth of the women's game today would not be possible without our pioneers like Corinthians. They are legends, and they laid the path for us to move forward and take the women's game to where it is today. The plaque represents the Corinthians' place in the history of the women's game, where we are hugely grateful for their efforts and endeavours of the Corinthians. The women's game is a richer place because of their dedication and their passion. Thank you.
This standing next one. Thank you, Kerry. And Kerry was a hugely talented England international as well, as I'm sure many of you remember. Next, we're honoured to have Andy Burnham here. And a few months back, when we first sort of mentioned this to Andy, I know he was absolutely passionate about being here today, just to say a few words, if that's okay.
Thank you very much. Oh, I wouldn't have missed this for the world. How good is this? Well done to the friends of Plaque, by the way. Amazing thing that you achieved. I know the councillors have helped as well. Leader of the council is here. I see you, Bad. But honestly, it's the friends that have done this, but in honour of people who can genuinely be described as legends. You hear that word a lot, don't you? Anyone who follows football hears that word a lot. It's thrown around far too much, in my view. Oh, such a body's a pioneer of the game. Well, actually, the people we're honouring today are true pioneers of the game, of English football. The Manchester Corinthians are football suffragettes. That's what you are. You definitely blazed the trail for so many other people. Are you okay? No worries, no problem. I see you're still good at getting them out, using the shoulder bars there. You must have been tough, you lot, getting washed in those duck ponds and everything. I know. Give him a 2-foot tackle if he's still there. But honestly, you blazed the trail, you kind of cleared the way for so many people to come after you, and actually it's really happening now, isn't it? Really happening now as the women's and girls' game is kind of finally, fully achieving what it always should have achieved. And it's kind of joyous, isn't it, to see that happening, to glory in the success of the Lionesses. If I'm right, and if I've read my notes correctly, the Manchester Corinthians represented England unofficially in a European Championship in the 50s, and someone mentioned that. Corinthians 4, Germany 0, have I got that right? Yeah. And then went to the unofficial Femenino Mundial, or whatever, the first Women's World Cup, and actually won that as well. So obviously went one further than the Lionesses there, but they got very close in terms of their repeating history. But just think about that, everyone. I mean, that is absolutely incredible, isn't it? From the start off, Manchester went out and basically won the European Championship and the World Cup, and it's something we're good at doing these days as well. We're often supplying the players to do that in the women's and the men's game. But it's just incredible football history that we're here to commemorate, and a group of people who, as I say, been the people who've really allowed so many others now to come through and be everything they want to be as young footballers. We've set up a women's and girls football board chaired by Karen Bardsley in Greater Manchester. Bev and I are members of that board because we want to show there's really strong political support to develop the women's game even further. I can see Colin from Manchester FA. Well done, Colin. You're a big support as well. So the change is happening now, but it's all back to you, and it's why it's right that you have this blue plaque on this wall. It's there forever, and we always recognise that actually the English women's game was really founded here. This is where it all began. You blazed the trail. We honour all of you, and just a massive shout out and well done to the legendary Manchester Corinthians. Well done.
It just, I mean, Andy said there about the tours to Germany and South America and so on. And what's great for us today is that we've got women who played in every area of the club, from the beginning to the later years. So that's great. So delighted with that. Now, before I get too emotional, I'd like to bring
May I say how delighted and thrilled we are as ex-Corinthians? Anyway, never mind. We're all delighted to be here at this auspicious occasion, and we think it's very, very warranted that the Corinthians, at long last, has some recognition. I'm really sometimes throwing myself about in that gold, getting mud from my toes to the top. I'm really pleased that somebody's recognised that we didn't do it all for nothing. And we thank everybody that's got anything to do with organising this project today, but more especially, if he was here, we would thank and bow down to our wonderful manager, Mr. Percy Ascot. To his dedication and enthusiasm gave us the opportunity of playing the game we all love, and also made us into a wonderful, world-beating team. He also taught us how to kick a ball as good as any man. I want to say thank you to him most especially, because he's the one who formed the team, who made us what we were, and has made the pathway through to this wonderful modern day football team of England that we all love to watch, we all admire, and it's not before flicking time. So, without more ado, thank you all for being here, and jolly good for the Corinthians who have paved this way for all of us to kick the ball whenever we want.
Can I just ask a couple of questions whilst we've got at the end? When did you start playing?
1956.
And did you go on the tour to Germany and South America?
Yeah.
What was it like to play in front of those enormous crowds?
Well, it was absolutely fantastic. It was an unbelievable experience. And when I went up from that tunnel in Benfica's Alvalade Stadium in Portugal with 45,000 people after having 6 watching me on Plaque, my knees were like jelly.
Bertrand, the famous City goalkeeper, was there, wasn't it?
Well, he was the one that rang Mr. Osprey up and said, look, by Friday, I want 11 girls with 2 reserves off to Berlin to play in an international European competition. We all went, we played, and we beat everybody in our sides, and came back with this little European cup.
This is incredible. And life was tough at times, wasn't it, for women footballers? How did you feel about the way women's football was viewed?
Oh, it was disgraceful. All we wanted to do was play a game of football. They didn't think we should do it. They thought we should be at the kitchen sink, washing the pots, changing the nappies, and going to the shops.
Andy, if you need another mayor.
I love Andy. I won't say a word against him.
So, final question for me before we do the unveiling. There were some characters playing for the team, wasn't there? Did you get up to a few scrapes?
Well, yes. I think the funny story I could tell was when I went to Holland and we were playing this Dutch team who were really rather good. And they kept drawing with us and Percy had to win. And their goalkeeper was the international handball goalkeeper. So Percy said, I'm not playing this last game because we've drawn every game. He said, you'll have to take that goalkeeper out. I said, well, we haven't got a reserve. So he said, well, I can go in. So I had to play for Holland. And I was playing Anna Steppers. And he said, all you need to know is ja and nay. He said, and let that flipping ball in when the centre goes. Well, I was so disgusted, I thought, you can't do that, it's not fair. And I've been brought up to be an honest fella. So I played the game of my life and we still drew.
Can we have a round of applause for Andy as well? Okay, the Corinthians from every area, please, if you want to come forward. Okay, have you got everybody who wants to be on the picture? Yeah? Okay, on behalf of the Corinthians, and would you be able to do the honours wherever you are? Here we go. You want to? That's right, give it a good tug. If you want to stay there for a moment or two, ask anyone takes any photographs or film. Did somebody say you wanted to see this on? No.